So next we're going to hear from Steve Herrick. Steve's been involved in cooperatives for more than a decade. He spent 5 years living in Nicaragua, where he saw the benefits of fair trade to coffee growers who were organized into cooperatives. When he returned to the U.S., he decided to draw on that experience by starting a cooperative of interpreters. That co-op will turn 10 years old in less than a week. For a year, he has worked with the Madison Cooperative Development Coalition, a 5-year city-university collaboration to start more worker co-ops in Madison. The program provides both grants and loans to startup co-ops and to existing businesses that want to convert to a worker co-op, as well as technical assistance. So, welcome, Steve.
I was glad to hear you talk about the importance of local efforts because this is going to be a very local talk. So I'll take 5 minutes on my own co-op and then 5 minutes on the Madison Cooperative Development Coalition. So my own co-op is the Interpreters Cooperative of Madison. As you just heard, it started 10 years ago. It started off very informally. It was pretty much just a list of phone numbers that one of the local nonprofits here in town kept because it needed interpreters to do its own work. And I became one of those interpreters. And over time, as I was still reflecting on my experience with fair trade and how not everybody, but a lot of people involved in fair trade were organized into cooperatives, it occurred to me that we could have an interpreter cooperative. And so I decided to put that together, and I started calling meetings, and it took way longer than I expected, like 3 times as long as I expected, but it did eventually work. And so in Madison, we have a pretty strong network of medical and court interpreters, and so we decided we would stay away from that. And we just do what's known as community interpreting. So we work for nonprofits, we work for schools, occasionally we work for small businesses, that sort of thing. And we pretty much find our interpreters right here in the community. Most of them tend to be immigrants, not all, but most. And we pretty much have to vet them ourselves and find who knows what they're doing and who doesn't. And we found enough people who do to keep going and to grow and to build what I would dare to call a community around ourselves. And so it's actually gone pretty well. So for the first 8 or so of our 10 years, we were actually housed within the same nonprofit that helped to get us started, the ones that needed us. We started off as what was meant to be a fundraising effort. It didn't go so well. And so when they had a turnover in leadership, we decided that was our turn, or that was our time to make a break and become fully standalone. And so we, at last, became fully worker-owned and operated. So that was about 2 years ago, and I ended up doing most of the administration, much to my chagrin. But somehow it's worked out and we've actually grown. So I feel pretty good about that. We pay above median wages for interpreters here locally. Our cost to the client is about market rate, but our pay to the interpreters is above market rate because we have relatively little overhead. And that's after taking into account that we have more overhead now than we've ever had before because we got fully insured, we finally got ourselves a real office that we have to pay rent on, we finally bought ourselves our own equipment, all the things that we kind of thought we would have done a long time ago, we finally got around to doing. And yet, we're actually doing quite well as a business in spite of all these additional expenses. Another interesting thing about us that's a very, very small movement, even within the worker co-op movement, is that we are thinking about becoming unionized. And that's kind of a counterintuitive thing. Why would you get a union if you already own the business? And I can talk more about that later on maybe. But there is a movement to do that. And in fact, there is a conference in November, a national conference about unionized worker co-ops, which I wish I could go to, but I can't. But what we can do, what we have done, is help other interpreter co-ops get started. So since we were founded, there's been one founded in North Carolina, one founded in New York City. We're actually helping to get a second one started in New York City. There's one in Massachusetts, and there's a couple of others that are just now getting off the ground, one in DC, etc. One difference that we have from those other interpreter co-ops is that most of those are focused on a single language, which tends to be Spanish. And we've taken a little different route. We actually pride ourselves on the depth of languages that we provide. We provide over a dozen languages at this point. So we've added not most, but we've added a few just this year. We finally branched out and gotten some African languages, some additional Asian languages that we haven't had. So we're feeling good about that. But in spite of all our success, we're still a very small operation. This is a second job for everybody, including me. And I'm the one who does by far the most work because I'm the scheduler and bookkeeper. So I'm working 4-ish hours a day, which is more than any other single person, but it's still a second job for me. So one of our major goals is to make this a first job for some of us. So we have to get kind of creative around that. So my other organization, which happens to be my main job, is called the Madison Cooperative Development Coalition. This is a collaboration between the City of Madison, particularly the Business Development Division, and the UW Center for Co-ops, which is a long-standing and very well-known and well-respected center. And there's only one or two others like it in the entire country. So there are two sides to this coalition. One does technical assistance and grants, and that's where I come in. I do, again, more the administrative side, but I also do some outreach. And then there is city money that provides grants to startups to do some of the kind of nuts and bolts stuff, like find a lawyer, find a bookkeeper, maybe do some marketing, that kind of thing. And then the other half is a loan fund, which is quite a bit more money. You can get up to $50,000 as a loan, and it's on pretty decent terms, better than average, better than you would find at a conventional bank. And yet we've only had one group take advantage of that. So we're wondering why that is. I mean, the biggest reason is that most of the ideas people have come to us with so far have been pretty labor intensive and capital light, but that's gradually changing. People are coming to us with ideas that are more capital intensive. So I'll give you some examples of some of the co-ops that we're helping to get going. We've got a restaurant co-op, a home cleaning co-op, bookkeeping co-op, which is actually up and running, potentially two childcare co-ops, a book repair co-op, that's a conversion, a brewing co-op, a hemp retail co-op, a school, which I believe is a public school, run as a cooperative. It's a very experimental kind of a thing. A home healthcare co-op, that's also up and running, a computer programming co-op, an aquaculture co-op, social justice consulting, a cooperative bookstore, and a couple of others. So these ideas are all over the map, which to me helps to reinforce the idea that basically anything that can be run as a business can be run as a worker co-op. But this is a time-limited thing, just like our talks. We are in our second of 5 years. And so a big part of our thinking even now, with 3 years left, is what's going to become of this program when the city money comes to an end. We're going to have to become an independent, standalone organization. So we're having a lot of conversations about exactly what that might look like and how that might work. So I'll finish ahead of time.